Okay, I guess I'm gonna make a bunch of little videos just answering questions. It's easier for me to do this than to write somebody a lengthy email, plus I can show you what's wrong. I got a request from an individual to make a part for a Wanzl gun because he's seen the video where I made the Wanzl firing pin, which was basically a pretty simple thing. Even though I kind of needed a milling machine, I still have the skill set to use files and cut it by hand. And someone goes, why didn't you use a Dremel tool? Well, the Dremel tool, you don't have control, and I still can file within 5 thousandths by eye and make measurements. I have more control of the file. It takes a longer period of time, but you go slow, concentrate, and you don't screw it up, okay? It's called skill, okay? And that's what's wrong with the world and everything today is people just don't take their time and do things. But, okay, getting into this next project, guy calls up, he wants to restore a gun. Had some parts missing. And we all know how our Wanzl works. Is we have our trap door with a hole in the back end here that closes down, and attached to the lock on the hammer in the mechanism is a pin. This pin rides in the back of the receiver here, and basically this is what, got it backwards, this is what locks the gun up. When the hammer goes, this piece goes in and engages the rear thing here. As you see, this does not want to go smoothly, and I noticed that when operating the gun, that I've had some problems, and I was kind of stuck. But let's take a closer look at the part in question, and I'll go over why some problems here with this. And we'll take, and why I don't think I'm going to be able to make this part, but we'll take a look at it up close. Okay, I hope this is clear enough for everyone to see. So first is the orientation of this part to the lock. There's a little round tab here, and I believe this thing rides inside the stock, and that notch goes on the lock like that. And as the hammer moves, okay, this pushes this locking pin, or whatever you want to call it, into place. How this sits in the rear of the receiver is this goes into here, like this. And then as the hammer falls, it pushes this forward, the hammer goes back, it pulls this out. Now if you notice, this thing's kind of binding. It's not going in to my bolt freely, okay? Because the way this is supposed to go, it's supposed to gently go in like that, to that position there, and this is how it locks in there. Much like this. This moves. That is the locking part of the bolt. Now, as we can also see with the bolt up, this does not quite fit in there quite freely. So when the bolt is down, this is binding somehow. Okay? And if you look at this bottom where it's been half-ass ground, and it looks like fresh grind marks on there. Okay? And you can see where it's scuffing here. My finger is in the back, that's hitting the screw. Now, if we take a close look at this part, I believe it's an original part. Okay, the round end, and you see where they kind of ground it, hit it, and I can see where this is binding up. and it's all one piece, and it's pretty much a very thin flat on there, where if you look at it this way, you can see where like it was ground, squared off at the top, then you have this rounded thing, and then you have a lip there with a notch cut in, and that notch is where the little pin or round boss on the hammer rides into this. Some of this looks like old grind marks, so this probably is an original part. Okay, some of this looks fresh, meaning that maybe it was not the part made for the gun. I don't know if they hand fitted these things, and it looks like how this particular part would have been made is this would have been a casting. Okay, and basically anything odd shaped like this would have been cast. Then the casting would be larger than the finished part. And then you could see the grinding, the old grind mark. Some of this is old. What they would do is they would go and then finish this on a grinder by hand. In other words, by hand, just take off 20, 30 thousandths or whatever was necessary, or machine it a little bit, and the shape, like this little chamfer here on the end was probably cast in there, and then this was ground and polished up and finished to a dimension that would work, much like this here. Now, what strikes me is that this grinding in here on the bottom looks fresh. Okay, and you know, it makes sense, and that's where the screw's hitting. So either this part did not go in this gun and it's something that they modified to work in this weapon, which they didn't do a good friggin' job of it, or there's just rust in there. I have to clean that hole out. But for me to make this part like this, it's beyond my capabilities. What I would have to do is get a square block of tool steel, get a 4-jaw chuck. See, I don't know if that's at an angle or what, or see, it even looks odd. Oh, because they ground it away. I would have to get a 4-jaw chuck, put a square block in there, try to center this somehow, and then turn the round piece. Then leave this would be a giant square block on the back end of this. Then I would have to mill it flat, mill a flat there, figure out my distance here, mill a flat there, cut out the notch. And see, this is rounded too. Okay. Oh, that would be from the turning. Yeah, this is something, I can't make this. Not in the garage, not without a ton and hours of work. Okay. It would not be feasible for me. So, you know, whenever you're buying these old guns and you say, yeah, I'd like to restore them and that, just bear in mind, something like this, they didn't make a lot of these guns, and I do see a lot of them all tore to shit. And another thing, these pieces are missing because I guess either rust or something gets in there, then the gun won't lock up. So the people take these parts out, and then they lose them. So you had the gun without the piece in it. And like I said, this one probably came from another gun, and someone tried to grind it to make it fit into this one. So yeah, this is problematic. This rifle doesn't quite work well. I mean, I can tell the hammer doesn't like to go down. This is binding. So this is something I have to do. You know, that should drop in there pretty simple, and it's not. This is something I'm going to have to work on my own gun, and unfortunately, I don't have the ability or the capability of making a part like this, especially a part that is the main part of locking up the gun. I can't do it safely. You know, I don't even want to try. And for me to make this out of a square block of steel, which I could do, would be a ton of hours. and it would not be economically feasible for me to attempt to make this part for the individual. So that's my answer on that. Sorry about that, but it can't be done, at least not at this moment, unless I come up with a way, or in the future if I'm going to have to work on this gun. When, I don't know, but in the future I may have to fabricate something like that, but I doubt it very much unless it's absolutely necessary. All right, so sorry on that one.